RSS in the Christian world is taboo.
Of course.
Okay, and it is a taboo even today.
Yeah, you might as well be talking about ISIS, really.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello viewers and welcome to another brand new episode of Chai with Red Pills. With me Ahmad Sharif and Dushyant Dubey here. Today the guest we have here is, I don't know man, it's a unicorn that's not supposed to exist. We have believe it or not, this is a Christian RSS member. Yes, you heard that right, a Christian RSS member. Jerome, welcome.
Hi, thank you for calling me on the show.
Thank you for coming on.
Congratulations on being made Mukhya Shikshak
Thank you so
of
much.
your Shakha today.
Thank you so much.
I don't know what that means, but congratulations. So Jerome, we have a picture here of you in RSS garb. There's a term for that, right? What's it called?
It's called the Ganavesh.
The Ganavesh. And looking at this picture, I have the same question that our viewers have, which is, what the heck? Like, what is that? Like, how? How come? How is this possible?
Why not?
Why do you exist, like Christian RSS member?
Why not is my question.
Because RSS has always been viewed as anti-minority, anti-Christian, and here you are in RSS Ganavesh.
So I'm here to remove that myth, the wrong propaganda that has been spoken about the RSS from years together. And I'm here as a witness to say that the RSS is not a Hindu's organization. Okay, I'm a witness to it. I've been there for a good amount of time in the RSS, and I exist, and I'm sure I'll take a lot of questions from both of you, and I'll clarify if there are any doubts about the RSS. With limited information, experience, and time that I've spent with the RSS.
Let's serve some chai first.
So I would like to ask you, Jerome, what is your background like? What do you do?
Thank you.
Where are you from? You know, how did you get involved in RSS? All these things. So let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
What's your background like?
I am a Bangalorean. I was born and brought up in Bangalore. I studied in Bangalore. I studied in the Christian schools. I graduated from St. Joseph's College, which is one of the prestigious colleges in Bangalore. And I work full time. And one of the interests has been to work as a volunteer, and I work as a volunteer with the RSS.
What is the RSS? Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh.
It is a civilian organization. It is a civilian organization with the aim of being with the society, and deep inside the idea is Indianism, being Indian.
I'm trying to decipher the title here. Rashtriya, national.
Yes.
Swayamsevak,
Volunteer.
volunteer, and Sangh,
Association.
Association.
Mm.
Would be a correct translation. Would you agree?
Yes.
That's right, yeah.
Exactly.
And I don't see Hindu anywhere in the title.
Absolutely.
But since both of you are RSS members, I'm asking, where did this association with hardcore, negative, sort of toxic Hindutva culture, where did this come in? Why this perception?
I think the perception is largely generated by the media and the opposition who do not, who want to discredit RSS in any way that they can find. And this is one of the things. See, their RSS's primary goal has always been to organize the Indian masses. That's what it's always been about. For the betterment of the country. For, in case the nation needs people, there has to be an organization that has kept people organized and ready for any kind of a calamity or any kind of a issue that they might be needed for. Jerome, what do you think?
Absolutely, I agree with you. And the RSS has one of the ideologies behind the RSS is to unify this country.
Exactly.
You may have your own differences, and to negate that Hindu stamp or Hindu chapa what you have on the RSS is a secular organization. It is open to anybody. Okay, it is not a BJP backed one. Even if you're an atheist, you can be part of the RSS. Even if you don't believe in God, you can be RSS. You can be part of any political party and you can still be part of the RSS.
I will tell you this, the only God that the RSS worships, quote unquote, is Bharat Mata. There is no other God or no other reverential figure that the RSS, in terms of, a mythical figure or like a historic, religious figure. Other than that, Hedgewar ji, Golwalkar ji, their images
The
are
pillars,
obviously because they've been the Sansthapakas of RSS, so obviously their images are paid respects to, but not like gods.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the Bharat Mata is nothing but your motherland.
Exactly.
And then you have Guruji and Dr. Ji.
Yes.
And it's more of a reverence. We respect them.
Yes.
And there is no worship.
Absolutely.
There is no worship.
And you're also very active in the church.
Absolutely, yes.
It's not like you're an atheist who stays away
Yes.
from the community or anything. So, how do you reconcile these two? You go to church and to the RSS. You feel it does not contradict with your beliefs in any way?
Absolutely no. So the church and the RSS are two different ideologies. When you said RSS is more for the country, more to do with service, more to do with preserving the culture and the ethos of the country, whereas the church is your religion. And there are two different roads. They don't need to meet, and you can still be part of any religion, and you can still be part of the RSS.
For church, you have to be a Christian.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so how were you raised? Like when you were growing up, was there any kind of a Hindu influence or RSS influence around you? That kind of the question is, how did you get here? Get to this point.
What influenced me?
Yes,
Okay.
precisely.
So as I have already mentioned, I studied right from my childhood. I studied in Christian schools, and I graduated from a Christian college. So right from the beginning till the end, all my education has been with Christian background. But I remember an incident when I was in the 8th standard that has always been there, and I always quote it in all my meetings wherever I meet people. Asking why did you join the RSS? When I was in the 8th standard, I was just riding my bicycle, and I found a shaka that is happening in my house.
Okay.
And I asked a friend of mine who was also a Christian, saying that what actually is happening there, and I would like to join them. Okay, these two questions.
What exactly was the visual that you saw?
I saw men in shorts, and they were doing some activity.
Okay.
I still don't remember very well, but I remember that incident.
Okay.
And the first question I told my friend was, and his name, he also was a Christian.
Okay.
And he said, Anthony, I would like to know what is happening there. So he said, this is the RSS. I said, I would like to join them. And he said, no, you're not supposed to join them because as a Christian, you're not supposed to join them.
Okay.
So he also put a fear on me, saying that if you want to join them, you'll have to cut your finger, or you have to make a small cut on your finger, and then you'll have to promise with your blood, saying that blah blah blah, which I do not know is the truth. But then after that, it always lingered in my mind, and I was always otherwise also I was somehow the Hindu culture attracted me, but I still went to church. I was very active in church all the years. So there were two different paths, and there was a little influence of the RSS from childhood. But after that, I don't remember much about having any contacts with the RSS. But then I was raised up since I was raised up in a Christian background. There was always a fear that Christians are enemies of RSS are enemies of Christians. Okay, this is what I was taught, and in whatever small discussions and interactions I've had with people from different walks of life, especially Christians, the RSS are sworn enemies of the Christians.
Okay.
But why this hatred? Like, why?
There's a big background behind this. We will definitely discuss this over this chat. But then, if you look at the origin of the RSS, it started during the pre-independence period,
Yes.
1920s, and right from the beginning, it was more to do with preserving the Indian culture.
Yes.
And that is where, so when I said the Indian culture and the whole culture, everything, that is where there is a small clash between the ideology of what Indians are and what the West is, because at that time the British was ruling us, and so see, it was an invasion not just on the country; it was an invasion on the culture also. Okay, so if you look at it, so somewhere when you say the West is associated with Christianity.
Yes.
And the West was ruling India. Okay, so So that is where the small clash is between in terms of thought process.
Like these colonists, they used to come to these countries, and they would project the people there as sort of savages. And there's something called atrocity literature. Look at all these people, they have all these evil practices and all. We have come here as people to enlighten them, to save them from this and bring them on the correct path. And they sort of use this as an excuse to conquer.
The British always thought of themselves as liberators, as bringers of freedom. The British believed the final and necessary justification of their empire was a moral one. The British kept the peace. They brought sound, honest administration. And they insisted that basic moral standards were honored. The British did not try to nation build in the way we think of it now. They were more than content to leave people alone, to let them be themselves, to govern them with the lightest possible hand.
What the what?
So, what was the general sentiment in the Christian community like about the RSS or Jan Sangh or BJP when you were growing up? And do you think it has changed over the years? Whether it has changed, and if it has changed, then has it been positive or negative?
In terms of the mindset of Christians towards the BJP, the
Yes.
RSS, or the...
How was it earlier and how is it now?
One of the things what I would like to congratulate all the opposition parties, right from the the independence period and the parties which were ruling the country, is that it's a well made negative propaganda about the RSS. Okay, so we were all brought up with being educated that the RSS is against Christians. So we all were brought up with the same mindset. So it was something which was always there, and nobody explored it. Today also, a lot of people talk about the RSS, negative things about the RSS, spread a lot of negative messages, negative videos, and a lot of propaganda which is against the RSS, which is baseless. So, and the Christian community is still under the impression that all these news are correct. So actually these are not facts. And I am testimony to it. I'm testimony to it. One of the things what we were told post 2014 was this, or during the 2014 elections, or to the run up to the 2014 elections was this: once Prime Minister Modi comes, there won't be any more Christians by the time his term ends. And today I'm alive and kicking, and it's 2019, and Prime Minister Modi is still looking on a high in terms of getting back his majority power.
Of course.
They made it sound like India would turn into Nazi Germany,
Absolutely.
which was an exaggeration and a lie,
Correct.
as everybody
Absolutely,
found
it's
out
a
now.
lie. It's a lie. It's a lie which has been well constructed and used against the BJP or the RSS.
Which is kind of what made me switch sides, this and many more lies.
I'm so happy that you did it.
Yeah.
Of course. So, the thing I wanted to ask you after this was that, so you're a Christian who, goes into the RSS, who goes to an RSS Shakha. When you joined, was there anything, anything out of the ordinary that you found there in terms of the treatment that other Swayamsevaks were giving you? And what was it like initially? Were they curious about why a Christian has joined? Did they try to convert you to Hinduism or try to tell you about how great Hinduism was? And did they try to convince you to leave Christianity? These are the things that we hear. So did anything of that sort happen? What was the whole experience like of joining the RSS and the first few months?
Okay, so I'm a pro BJP person, and I am a member of the BJP.
Okay.
I've been there for the last 5 years. The first time I announced to a few of my Christian friends, the first thing was they said they lost a heartbeat, and they said, is it you? Is it you? So I said, it is me. And they said, the first thing I said, okay, fine. So I did give my version of why I'm in the BJP and why I'm why I'm in the BJP. And then they said, fine, but be careful. And one very important thing I was told was this: you won't last there for 6 months.
Okay.
Okay.
With what implication?
I said, I won't be there. I will leave. No, my friends who knew me said I won't be able to live or stay in the BJP with the kind of ideology. They said you will know the truth and you'll be out of the BJP in the first 6 months.
Okay.
I've been there now. I'm a volunteer of the BJP, and I've been how I got into the RSS was this: when I started interacting with the people in the BJP, there used to be a few RSS.
So you're saying you joined BJP first?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I was a sympathizer of the RSS, but the first opportunity I got was to be with the BJP as a volunteer. So I was a volunteer there, and that gave me opportunity to interact with a lot of people from all the many different organizations. And one of the organizations was the RSS, and I was very attracted to it. And the first thing I did was I enrolled myself online.
Okay.
Okay, that was around,
RSS.org.
Yes, that was around 4 years back. I enrolled myself because that's the first thing what I wanted to do. Okay, because I knew that it'll take some time for me to get into the RSS to speak to somebody.
Yes.
So I did that, and then during the course of my interactions, I met a lot of people, and then I started going to the RSS shakas. And then when people knew that I am going to the RSS shakas, the next question told was, please don't convert. Convert towards, don't become a Hindu.
तू हिंदू बनेगा न मुसलमान बनेगा इंसान की औलाद है इंसान बनेगा.
Okay. That was their fear.
Fear. And to a certain extent, I must accept that even my wife asked once a question, are you going to convert? Okay, so that is something which I myself was taken aback. I said, see, religion is within you.
Yes.
Okay, and so the Hindu influence, the Indian influence is so much on me that actually speaking, my faith has become only stronger by interacting with people who are Hindus. Okay, so though religion is out of the RSS, I'm just talking that in terms of when I come across people from different backgrounds, especially the Hindu religion, it has made my faith only stronger.
When it comes to being a Christian in the RSS, have you been able to inspire other Christians to kind of see the BJP or RSS more favorably? And do you have any plans of getting more Christians into the RSS?
RSS in the Christian world is taboo.
Of course.
Okay, and it is a taboo even today.
Yeah, you might as well be talking about ISIS, really.
Yes. It is taboo to speak about RSS in the church. Okay, BJP is acceptable. Okay, because we see a lot of Christians now coming
BJP,
and joining the Bharatiya Janata Party.
And also contesting elections.
Contesting elections. But the RSS is still not acceptable. And one of my aims would be to form the Christian Munch in the RSS.
Okay.
Because there are several bodies in the RSS organizations. One is the Muslim Munch, the one is the Sikh Munch, but there is no Christian Munch. So there is a void there. We are close to approximately 3 to 5% Christians, if I'm not wrong. I'm talking about 2011 census onwards, and then a lot of data not captured. So I look at something like 4 to 5% of Christians, and then for them there is a void because there is no representation in the RSS. So my one of the tasks what I wish to take would be to convince the Christians to be part of the RSS, and also the RSS to have the Christian Munch.
Okay.
So, why do you go to the Shakha? What do you do? What motivates you to go there? What do you guys do when you get together?
So, the Shakhas are nothing but your daily camps. You meet up every day. And then the general activities are this, that you exercise, okay, you speak a little about some person or some character, you discuss something maybe on a current affair, and then maybe you say the prayer, which is the prayer to the motherland. And because it is Sanskrit, it's assumed that it is a Hindu thing. But actually it is for the motherland. It is, and also the prayer is not for the Hindus, it's for the whole world. It's for the common good. Okay, so
there are no religious undertones in the prayer.
no, there are no religion.
It doesn't praise any Hindu god.
It does not praise any Hindu god.
It's the prarthana. It is a prayer, but it's an ode to the motherland sort of a thing. Namaste sada vatsale matrabhume.
Matrabhume, motherland.
Yes, motherland.
Okay.
So you talked about starting a Christian Munch within the RSS. So I wanted to ask you, if you start a Christian munch within the RSS, now we see that there is a lot of PR or kind of relation building that even Sri Mohan Bhagwat does with Muslim bodies nowadays, okay, which helps the MRM in a big way, which is the Muslim Rashtriya Manch. So, is there a way, do you think, would you be, if you want to establish the Christian Manch, then would there be a plan to also speak to the church or the different kinds of churches in India? Maybe, have some sort of activities there. How would you, in your vision, would you open up the church and Christians in India towards the RSS?
I see in the last 8 to 10 years, there have been efforts by the RSS to reach out to the church. But somehow I feel that the approach is not correct.
Okay.
The reason being this, the approach is made to the church leaders, the
Yes.
bishops and priests.
Yes.
And they will not move an inch. They will not move an inch because, as I said, I will come to the topic of the church. They don't need the RSS.
Of course, there's no
they don't need
requirement.
the RSS. They are very powerful, and they don't see the need to be in the RSS. So they will not encourage the. They will not come forward and they may come for any activity or a program if the RSS invites them, but it'll be only that. Beyond that, it will not get constructed.
And the other thing that you said exactly about the construction, there's no forward path.
Absolutely.
Like even if they are pro RSS, what's next for them, right? Like you said, there's no real way for them to kind of funnel into the RSS. So I think a Christian Munch would definitely solve them.
Absolutely.
And do you think the concept of a shakha is compatible with a church or like convent schools or things like this?
In fact, one of my tough tasks would be to talk to the church to allow us to do shakas in the schools.
That's
Okay.
very.
I am
path-breaking,
looking forward towards that. I'm sure you would have all seen that I have written a couple of letters to the
Yes.
CBCI president.
Yes.
Because there's a great need for the church to join hands with the country, the mainstream country, and so it would be a tough task. But one of the things what I'm going to do is this: I do not know if I will get through, if I will succeed, but I will definitely make an effort. I will seed the concept of the Christian Munch in the RSS, and it would take some time.
Okay.
But as answering to the previous question, the approach should not be top down. It should be bottoms up.
Okay.
Okay, because as of now, the RSS is reaching out to the church leaders, which is the priests, the pastors, the bishops. It will not work. I think it's important for them to come bottoms up. That is, start identifying members who are inclined towards the RSS, the Christians, and then build on it. And once you build on it, the church leaders will not have an opportunity or don't have a choice but to align.
True.
If you are going to the church leaders, the pastors and the priests and the bishops, they will not move an inch. They will only shake hands with you and they will leave. Okay, so it's important to build the grassroots. There are enough members across the country who can seed this whole concept. And one is me. And I, as a volunteer, the RSS should use me and people like me to see this opportunity and build the RSS Christian Munch.
Why this reluctance? What is the fear in their minds? That this will somehow have a negative impact on the Christian community associating with the RSS?
See, as I said, from the time the British have been there, the RSS movement was there during the British period. And when we said about safeguarding our culture, safeguarding our people, safeguarding our resources, it was in some way against the British, right? And the British were Christians, correct? And they had invaded our country, they had invaded our culture, they had invaded everything of our lives. So if you look at it, the church still aligns to the Western thought process.
So this hostility is there from that time. It's a
Exactly, yeah.
hangover.
And just to add to this, there is still a huge connect between the church in India and the church across the world. Okay, so this is not just the Catholic Church. I'm talking about every other church which is there. By the way, there are so many number of denominations in the church today, okay, which I will want to discuss over
course.
a period of time.
So there's a question that we have from a friend of ours, a friend of the podcast, and a very good friend of mine, Mr. Ruchir Sharma. So Ruchir has asked you that in 2014, about 10% of the Muslims voted for NDA. That's what we know. So what percentage of Christians do you think vote for NDA? Because we know about the Muslim numbers, we have an estimate. But what percentage of the Muslim Christian community do you think votes for NDA or NDA parties, BJP?
Me being in the BJP, as a member of the BJP, as a volunteer of the BJP, I have interacted with a lot of Christians. And what I want to tell Ruchir is this. I don't expect too much of attraction from the Christian community, because nothing much has changed as of now. Because there could be some traction from the Muslim side, but then from the Christian side it could be very, very marginal, because there is still not much coming together of the Christians towards the BJP. It will take some time. And there needs to be an effort from the BJP or the RSS to reach out to the Christians.
And Ruchir, he's really big on data, and he does a lot of analysis, and he writes very good articles too. So one of the things that he saw in his research, which he has a follow-up question with, that among the Muslims, Shias and Bohras seem to be more inclined to vote for BJP, and they are also Modi is very popular amongst them. But the Sunnis kind of distance themselves from Modi and BJP in general. So among Christians, when it comes to Syrian Christians, Mangalore Catholics, Goan Catholics, Tamil Protestants, your Northeastern Baptists, is there a particular community that is more towards the BJP or anti-BJP, or is it all the same?
The Christian community as a whole feels threatened.
Okay.
And you can take it from me, you can quote me, Christians are still not moved towards the BJP.
Okay.
It is across.
Regardless of the community.
Absolutely, it's across.
And you tried reaching out, making peace, and you wrote a letter, I believe. And
To
you got
CBCI, the Catholic Bishops.
Yes.
and you got a lot of heat for the letter, a lot of hate.
Conference of Catholic Bishops of India
Correct.
wrote a letter to them. So
So
what
can
was
you
the
tell us
letter about,
about
first of all?
See, one is being in the BJP, though I maintained a low profile, my family, my wife also is an equal hardcore supporter of the BJP and the RSS. And and one of the questions that is being asked is, are you both Christians? Or are you, from when have you been Christians? So there are a lot of questions being asked. From the generations I know all of them have been Christians. Okay. And so there is no question that my wife is a Hindu or she's influencing me. We all have been Christians. Okay. So there is no question on that. We have been getting a lot of mails, messages, calls, SMS forwards and WhatsApp forwards of fake propaganda about the BJP or the RSS. And I have gone back and I have gone back and told them this is not correct. This is fake. I've investigated and Google is there. You check, you will know what has happened.
You are fake news.
As recent as there was one forward among the Christian community saying that Chief Minister Yogi has imposed 6% GST in UP on all church collections.
Okay.
6% GST. That was something which, and it was sent by a Christian to me, and it was sent by a person who's in the BJP. BJP Christian. See, I gather a lot of people. So this question was thrown to me saying that why is Chief Minister Yogi imposing 6% GST on church collections? I was shocked because there is no 6% GST, there is only 5% GST. The slabs, if I'm not wrong, are 5% and 12%. And in those numbers. So there is no 6% GST.
So that itself made you suspicious. This could be fake news.
Absolutely. So I threw it back to them. And the person went back. They couldn't. And there is one more which said that...
so what was the reality of that?
It was a fake one. It was a
Okay,
fake
so there
There was
no
no
GST
such
whatsoever.
GST imposed on.
It was a Photoshop which was done on the Times of India paper and sent to me. There was similar such an incident which said that a girl in UP was burnt alive, okay, for converting to being a Christian. Okay, and it was live video. Believe me, whoever sees it will say, man, this is real material, because anybody will fall for it.
Yeah.
People get emotional.
Emotional, and they would out of
They get emotional before they get logical.
absolutely. And it is a full video of the girl getting burnt. Okay, it is live. It is she's getting burnt, and this girl was supposed to be a Christian who's going to church. Okay, so Hindus burnt it. The fact is that it is a video that was taken in South America.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but then unless and if you don't investigate it, look at the amount of damage it is going to do among the Christian community.
This happens a lot, man. I see this all the time on social media.
Absolutely.
Some random footage of some people getting beaten up somewhere, having a fight somewhere. And then, I mean, there is no way you can tell these people are from a particular community, from a particular country. They take it like they take this like sort of pre-packaged videos and just ascribe whatever labels they want.
See, there is somebody who's working on it because it's well planned, well edited, and it is sent to us. And people who are from the Christian community, they blindly forward it. I asked them only one question. I said, "Have you investigated this?" There's no answer. Then after I investigate, I send it back to them and quote the Bible saying that, as per one of the 10 commandments, you're not supposed to spread false information about anybody.
Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
So I've had a question related to that. We are both associated with the RSS, and also you're in the BJP. I'm not in the BJP, but obviously a BJP voter. I wanted to. You have spoken about fake propaganda being spread, but then there is an image of Indian Christians that is spread in the West about how Indian Christians are always in danger, and we'll come to that type of propaganda as well further down the conversation. But some of it, won't you say, is not unfounded? For instance, most of this kind of violence against Christians, the reasons for which we'll discuss now, have happened in Orissa. Okay, so you've had your Graham Staines murder case, and then you had your Kandhamal violence, which was actually, it started because of the murder of Swami Lakshmanananda. So what do you have to say about these cases? We'll start with the Graham Staines case. It happened a very long time ago.
See, any kind of a killing
Deplorable.
is not acceptable.
Of course, yes.
Any kind of killing. Okay, so it was a sad incident. It was something which shocked the whole world.
Absolutely.
Graham Staines with a 10-year-old son and a 6-year-old son, both his children, with him sleeping in a wagon, burnt alive. It did shake up a lot of people. But then that is, see, if you look at it, there is an entirely different picture behind this whole violences that's happening.
Yes.
If you look at the whole conversion business, okay, which I'm sure you would like to know,
of course.
is this conversion is a business, okay, and you can quote me.
What is the business aspect?
I will come to you.
Sure.
Okay, I will come to you. Conversion is a business.
Okay.
And it started off with the erstwhile Europe. It was a pure religious and political nexus, which went around the world and said that you have to convert. So it's a business.
Okay.
I will also get into that how the business works. But then if you look at it, if you're talking about this the murders and the violence that is happening, it is because they have invaded our culture.
Okay.
Okay, it is like this. My shirt will not fit you. Your shirt will not fit me.
Yes.
But then these conversion people who come down to convert, they have come up. They come in. See, it's not just India. It is not just India. Across the world, whichever civilizations they went as missionaries, and then they went and they converted, and then eventually occupied the place.
Yes.
So the same thing happened in India also. It is going back to Graham Staines, and I think it's something which is not acceptable. But I see that as an extreme form of violence which was carried out. It should not have happened.
Of course.
It should not have happened. But then, if you look at it, not everybody is the same. There's a lot of emotions that is running in. We have a lot of missionaries who have come down, who stay here, and then who get into this business of conversion. And when since you're talking about the Orissa, just for the information of all our viewers, conversion business has moved from south to the other part of the country.
Okay.
If you look at it, you have a good amount of conversion that has already happened. There's already seeding that has happened,
Yes.
and it is growing now. Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra, and the whole south. So it's already there. It's now growing by itself. So now the existing business is moving towards the other side of the country and towards the tribal areas, towards the areas where people are very economically backward.
Okay.
So that's where the business is moved, and we do, and it's not acceptable. Conversion is a business. We don't want it. We don't want it. And these are conversions popularly known as the rice bag conversion.
Samosa conversion.
Popularly known as the rice bag conversion, because and it is true, because people have been coerced and taken advantage of their financial and economical background and then lured to convert. This no civilization would accept.
So the origin of the term is they bribe them with a rice bag to convert.
Absolutely.
So that's true.
No, so I don't know if that really happened, but then they economically support somebody. So it's popularly known as the rice bag conversion. I have not seen the rice bag, but yes, there is a lot of support, economical support that has been given in exchange for being converted.
Maybe it's a metaphor. Rice bag.
Absolutely.
convert.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Now, on this exact thing, I want to ask you, and this is something that I personally felt for a long time as a Hindu. The Christians, or rather, let's say the poor people generally who convert to Christianity under, the offer of a financial support or some sort of support. Do you think that their own Hindu brothers and sisters have kind of forsaken them, which is why they, kind of move towards the church, or they don't get enough, or why do you think these people leave something as important and personal as their own religion to join another religion? I mean, are times that dire, or is the brainwashing an element of it, or what is it? Because sometimes we have this discussion on Twitter also between right-wing supporters that maybe Hinduism just hasn't been good to these people.
Which again, you'll have to go back to history. India was the land of milk and honey. Okay. If you go back to history, we were one of the richest countries in the world.
Yes.
When the whole world were barbarians,
Yes.
when the whole world were nomads, and when the whole world were still not even knowing how to read and write,
Yes.
we had universities in our country.
Of course.
Okay, we are the richest country. We were the richest country, and we were plundered. Everything was plundered.
Repeatedly. Over
Muhammad of Ghazni plundered 17 times. 17 times. And then there is plundering from everybody. And the final nail in the coffin for India was the British. The Europeans came, they plundered. Everybody plundered. See, India was rich. India was rich. India was not a poor country.
And India also had a concept of dan and punya.
Absolutely.
Giving.
India was a rich country. It was made poor.
Yes.
Okay, it was made poor intentionally. Okay, and we actually became probably the poorest countries in the world. And I think by the time 1947, when we got independence and we were on our own, we were really poor. So,
and the socialist government did not help things at all.
No governments, not just the socialist governments, any government didn't help. Even the governments which were ruling the country also plundered us. Okay, they were on their own trip. They plundered us. They plundered the existing wealth of the country. So we were a poor country, and we became a poor country. There was a huge gap. There was a huge gap between the poor and the rich. So and we're talking about poverty. We're talking poverty, and when it comes to poverty, why would not somebody who is being helped financially take up convert?
There's another thing that I would, I think I can, take from that, what you just said. Not only does so much plundering and so much, taking away of wealth or robbery of wealth, not does it only take away the actual wealth that people have, but it also took away their spirit of giving. Because I think the point is that, whatever they had to hold on to it. They had to hide it. They had to, keep it.
India was self-sufficient.
Yes.
And That's why I said, see, Indian culture is so rich. It is self-sufficient.
Yes.
They destroyed our temples.
We even had an ecosystem of charity, huge ecosystem of charity. So even if someone's poor by chance or by tragedy, there was enough available for them from all comers, from all corners, that they would get, on their feet yet again. And they did not require a socialist system of government to do that.
See, the British who were there for the last tenure of ruling of invasion was the British. They knew the strengths of India, and they broke the backbone of India. One of the backbones was the temples.
Of course.
Second backbone was the education.
Yes.
Okay, we, as I said, we already had universities when the whole world were nomads and barbarians.
Yes.
Our education system was strong enough. We excelled in medicine. We excelled in science. We excelled in astrophysics. You name it, and we excelled it. But
Medicine,
then they just
surgery,
destroyed it. They just destroyed it, and they made us poor. And that is why many people didn't have a choice but accept, at least as a token, they accepted religion, converted, at least for the kind of support that they had.
See, these temples, mosques, churches, they are more than just places for ritual and worship. These are also places where the community gathers, you build social bonds, and society becomes stronger.
Absolutely.
If you destroy these places, consequently civilization will also suffer.
Yes. And if you look at it, the European invasion, especially backed by the Christians, whichever country they went, they just destroyed those civilizations. Destroyed the civilization.
Yes.
And they involved in large-scale genocide. One of the things what I want to talk to this time I'm not going to talk to the bishop, I'm going to talk to the Pope. Okay. I'm going to write a letter to the Pope asking him to write an apology for the Goa genocide. Okay, because if you look at Africa, the genocide of Rwanda, where almost 1 million people were killed with the patronage of the priests and nuns, at least there the church distanced itself, saying that it was something to do among the community, or among that particular nation. But if you look at the Goa Inquisition, it was directly supervised under the Pope. So the Pope has to send an apology for the Goa Inquisition, where n number of Hindus were tortured, n number of Hindus were killed, and then it was a large-scale genocide. And at least in many places where the church has said they have distanced from education, from violence and genocide, in the case of India and especially in the case of Goa, the church needs to have sent an apology, because the Goan Inquisition was implemented by the Pope at that time.
Can you please just quickly summarize what is the Goan Inquisition? I heard of the Spanish Inquisition. I thought that was pretty bad. People were hunted and murdered.
So what happened was this: there is this person called Francis Xavier, who came to India. The Portuguese had occupied Goa, and they had established as a colony, and they went on a mass conversion. They wanted to convert. They converted a lot of Hindus forcibly, coerced them forcibly. So conversion was forced to them, and after the conversion happened, this is where the fun is. After the conversion happened, they found that those Hindus who got converted, for whatever reason, whether they were forced or whether they did it voluntarily, they still had Hindu practices. It could be, I don't know, it could be as simple as putting rangoli in the house, right? Because that's an Indian culture.
But they were not completely Christian.
Yes,
they retained some of their cultural
values.
Because see, India is rich in culture. Because it's in our blood.
They were called what? Crypto Christians.
Christians. Yes. Which when it was discovered that they are still secretly, so it was branded saying that you are practicing Hinduism though you are converted to Christianity.
So you are fake Christians.
Fake Christians. And they went through unimaginable atrocities by the church, and this was signed by the bishop. The Inquisition. The Pope. It was the Portuguese Goan Inquisition was signed and implemented, and there were people who were there who were monitoring this whole exercise.
So there was a genocide that happened with the blessings of the church.
Absolutely, absolutely.
When
this we are not-
this is like totally new to me. When did this happen?
This happened during the Portuguese time, when the
Which
Portuguese
is
had
1500,
occupied.
1600, 1700.
When Francis Xavier had come, and if I'm not wrong, he led the whole thing. And today he's a saint. He's a saint in the church.
If I'm not wrong, even Buddhists and Jews were targeted by this, but not Muslims.
But the
obviously.
biggest the sufferers were the Hindus.
Yeah. Biggest sufferers were Hindus.
Hindus.
And lower castes.
Absolutely.
Most were the lower castes.
No, it was not because you converted, but you converted and then you still practiced.
Yes.
One was the atrocities that is already putting on the Hindus who were there, plus those who converted also. This was done to them.
So speaking of conversion, again, I wanted to just take us back to that. The depiction of Christians in India,
Correct.
that is made in the
The
West.
West.
Yeah. So how accurate is it? So for that, we just want to, make sure that we are clear on all the points.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, I feel this is like what I said before, atrocity literature.
Correct.
Trying to demonize a culture and then coming as saviors.
And it's also very biased, because if you look at, for instance, Mother Teresa, okay, Mother Teresa, the kind of accolades that were showered on her, but then the actual reality of what the House of the Dying was all about, it's something that if you watch that documentary,
Christopher Hitchens, yes. Christopher Hitchens.
Christopher Hitchens, yeah.
Yeah.
so Christopher Hitchens made that documentary Hell's Angel, and we can see what Mother Teresa was actually up to. That was another extension, and this whole case with the Sentinelese killing a Christian missionary as well. So people generally in the West don't see the other side of conversions. Recently, a YouTuber, Carl Rock, he was in the Northeast, I believe, somewhere, and he made a video. He was hitchhiking, and he was picked up by some Christian missionaries who told him about the mass conversions in
Yes.
Meghalaya and Mizoram.
Correct.
So they were telling him that millions of people converted within a very short span.
period.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get to the conversion business. If you look at the conversion business, first of all, you need to know Christianity.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Christianity, the biggest. So there are many divisions among the Christian community. The biggest and one of the oldest is the Roman Catholic Church,
Okay.
which owes its allegiance to the Pope. Okay, so you have the Roman Catholic Church, and probably in every part of the world there is a Catholic Church. Okay, so the Roman Catholic Church has had its peak. Okay, it is an institution which owns businesses, which owns schools, educations, and it is one of the richest and the most powerful churches in the whole Christian, in the Christian in the whole Christian kingdom. And they have a lot of money, and they have a lot of power. And if I'm not wrong, it is the church in India is the second largest owner of land in India after the army.
Wow.
Church in India
yeah.
is the second largest owner of land after the army.
I can totally believe that.
Single owner.
I
Second
can
largest single
totally
owner.
believe that because of the schools they have,
Yeah.
the amount of land that's there, the hospitals and all the colleges and all these
So
things.
they're very powerful. The Catholic Church is very powerful. So it has had its peak, and in the last probably 15, 20 years or 30 years, it has not come down, but it has stayed where it is. And if you see in the West, the Catholic churches are closing down because there is no more members, because what is happening in the West.
Yeah, of
Okay,
course.
the amount of scandals that is coming in, the truth that is coming in. So there is a lot of dwindling. The churches are closing down, and most of if you can actually read, a lot of churches are becoming pubs and bars and all.
Yeah.
So they have changed. Okay, so the business has closed down in the West. So the business has started in the East here. So the most interesting thing is this: the Catholic Church. I would request my viewers, when you say a Christian, some Christian has done something, many times it is not the Catholic Church, especially in terms of conversion, because the Catholic Church has got so much of money. There is no need of any conversion. Today, the Catholic churches in India also are empty.
Okay.
Okay. The biggest danger are these splinter groups which have started in this country and across the world. Every house has started its own church.
Okay.
So the Catholic Church is weakening basically. It's dying
The
out.
the Roman Catholic Church has not weakened. Has, yes, to a certain extent it is weakened. You would have
It
seen
has become stagnant, you would say.
stagnant, yes, stagnant, and there is a lot of trickling out of the Catholic Church. So now what happens is a lot of splinter churches that is opening. Okay,
Okay.
and these are the people who are actually engaged in conversion. Now, for all the conversion activities, there is still money coming from the West. Okay, and it is a good business. So, what has happened is there is a huge discovery of funds that is available in the West to help plant churches and conversions in the East. Okay, so in the Indian context, if you look at it, a lot of people who are involved in the conversion business is not the institutional Catholic Church or the Protestant Church. It is all the small churches which have opened. I can open my own church. Okay, so once I open my own church, then I have my own contacts in the West, and I say, look, I am engaged in the business of conversion. I am doing this X, Y, Z. I am helping so many people, and then invariably somehow the funds come in.
So, but one thing I want to say, conversion is being spoken of in very negative terms. Just one thing I wanted to clarify. Most people would justify this saying, it's a person's freedom of choice, his religion, he wants to convert, he can choose his faith. But I believe listening to you and him, it's not as benign as that, it's a lot more sinister.
Conversion in the sense,
There's a lot of hostility associated with this.
it's not a voluntary conversion, it is a hostile conversion. Hostile conversion where you actually invade the culture and then you convert those people, you force the religion onto them. And that has been happening from ages together.
Because in my community, even a voluntary conversion would be seen as very negative and undesirable.
इस्लाम को छोड़ दे.
इस्लाम को छोड़ेगी तो मुर्तद हो जाएगी. मुर्तद की सजा मौत.
Interestingly, when you talk about conversion, if there are people who want to convert to become a Catholic, okay, interestingly is that there is a huge process to become a Catholic, to be part of the Catholic Church.
Okay.
Unlike these splinter churches, which will make you overnight members,
Okay.
because they want membership. But today, if you go to the Catholic Church and say that if it is a Hindu or anybody else who wants to become a Catholic, they would ask 10 questions, and there is a huge process. So it is not that they are waiting for members to convert to the Catholic Church, but then the one, as I said, the ones which are wanting to be members are the splinter churches.
Okay.
And if you look at it, all those splinter churches are the ones which are going into remote locations where people are economically poor or there's no education. They want to set up camps and do all these good services and then get them into conversion.
So what's their profit in that?
Exactly. That's what I wanted to ask. Because you've been saying that it's a business. And if I'm investing in someone, giving him money to convert, like what output am I getting out of
So
those
what happens
people?
is this, when you said conversion as a business, these businesses are funded by the West.
Okay.
So there's a lot of money coming in. So if you get 10 rupees, 2 rupees would go back to go to actually the people who deserved, and 8 rupees you would keep.
Okay. So it's like an affiliate marketing kind of a thing.
Absolutely. Incidentally, the conversion business is so strong in the and it is so well marketed in the West. Have you seen? I do not know if you. I remember seeing this some time back. You have the Amazon. You have the e-commerce business. So you have a similar one which says that you put a photograph of a child, okay, a Hindu child, any child or a Christian child, whoever it is, saying that this child in such remote part of the country in India needs money to be
I've seen
educated
that,
and all that.
Your crowdfunding business.
Funding. So basically you get funds from there. The people shop for them and then, okay, I want to sponsor this child, and then you donate them.
Yes.
So that's the business model.
Yes.
And that money comes down to India.
Okay, it's like that.
Yeah. So if you look at it, one of the reason why Christian community hated the coming of the shooting up of the BJP or the RSS is this. They knew very well that when the government comes, there would be a check and then it will actually hit the pocket.
Of course.
And to a great extent, I think 2014 onwards, post Prime Minister Modi has come, he has put a huge check on the lot of funds that is coming in, and
Several NGOs have been banned.
shut down, and fake NGOs have been shut down, and so it has actually pinched these conversion businessmen, and that is where the hatred also comes through.
But tell me, these people who are funding them, I believe they are, I don't know, philanthropists and whatever, I don't know, but what are those people getting who put in money?
Okay, so interestingly, my first job was with a Christian NGO.
Okay.
Okay, I do not want to name the NGO,
Of course.
because I know I will become controversial. It is one of the largest child sponsorship programs. Okay, and I worked with them. I worked for a year, and I was fired because they could not tolerate me. Okay, and I was just 19 years old when I was working there, and I know I have read the letters where the sponsors are running. It is not philanthropists. I'm sorry, it is not philanthropists. These are people who are retired people. These are people who have probably little money, who are sharing a little for somebody who is in need in some part of the world.
It's because of their Christian beliefs they want
They have a Christian belief. They would no. Otherwise, also there are people who would want to do it.
Yeah.
So
They're doing it out of the
yes.
kindness of their
And I
hearts.
used to read those letters, and I used to literally feel be in tears because somebody actually is foregoing something there in the West to send somebody, spend the money for somebody, and here there is somebody who is looting that money.
Of course.
So, if I have understood this correctly, the people who are actually funding it, they are getting nothing. They are just giving it out of the goodness of their heart.
Yes.
It's this middleman who embezzle and
It's a business. It's
so
a pure
that is what you mean by business. Okay,
It's a
understood.
Yes.
Yes,
So-
it's clear now.
One question that I wanted to ask you was, when it comes to the Indian leftist kind of, the community, I see a massive presence of Christians, or rather Christian children, or young Christians. Maybe they've left the religion or whatever. I fail to understand the appeal that leftism has for Christians, considering that Karl Marx himself said that the prerequisite for happiness is the abolition of religion, and he of course called religion the opium of the masses, and he was primarily referring to Christianity in all those instances. So why do you think there's such a leftist allure in young Christian youth?
Probably they did good work. When I said good work, they marketed well. And if you look at it, there are only 2 states in this whole country which have a huge presence of the left governments.
Yes.
And I think both of them would start biting the dust very soon because the truth is coming out.
You mean Kerala and West Bengal?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. In Kerala, because it's closer to south, and I have visited Kerala. See, it is different from an ideology, from actual communism.
Yes.
Otherwise, Christianity would not have survived. Because,
Absolutely not.
Because still Kerala has a huge population of Christians.
Practicing Christians.
And it is an ideology that is sold. It is like this, the Chinese food, which is converted into Indian Chinese food. Right, the masala, gobi Manchurian.
Yeah.
So the communism which was there in other countries have been very nicely packaged and sold in these states, and you know very well where these states are in terms of growth and in terms of things.
I think they package it in the in the packaging of social justice and these types of things.
Absolutely, yes.
And of course it's one ideological. So the initial point that we were discussing is that Christians do not see RSS as a good thing. They see it as a horrible thing, and BJP is obviously an extension of the RSS. So maybe for a young Christian who's growing up, the only ideological way to go is something that is in complete opposition of this ideology, and they naively kind of lead themselves into the hands of Marxists.
Yes.
Would you agree with that? I think
Yes, I do.
because lots of young Christian boys and girls, like complete Marxists, and they are still practicing Christians. So
Practicing Christians, they go to church, they're active in church, and if you look at even at least in Kerala itself, every Christian may be a part of the left, but then he's equally active in the church.
Of course.
So, as I said, it is packaged well, and it is sold well, and that's the reason why it's thriving.
Okay.
And I'm sure sooner or later they will get to know the facts, and
Of
then
course.
they will fall into mainstream country.
One question. Okay, since you're a Christian in the RSS, now this is the most burning question that I'm sure all our leftist friends or anybody that's not on the right watching this podcast, and even some people like me who are on the right would have of you. What are your views on Savarkar and Golwalkar, who wrote in their books, for example, Golwalkarji's book, Bunch of Thoughts, which is actually a bunch of thoughts, it wasn't one comprehensive book, where he talks about Christians, how Savarkar talks about Christians could never be a part of Hindutva because their Punya Bhumi is in Jerusalem, or let's say for Roman Catholics it's in Rome. So how do you see this, and what do you think about these philosophers excluding Christians from the idea of Hindutva?
So, both the leaders spoke at that time.
Yes.
At that time, and that time was mostly pre-independence. And I think Savarkar was there during the independence and of independence.
So, it was pre and post.
Post, okay. So if you look at it, the comment was probably appropriate at that time.
Okay.
But today, if you have a cricket match between India and Italy, the Christians will support India.
Of course, yes.
Wholeheartedly, 99.99%.
Yes.
So it is a small tweak that you need to do among the Christians to fall into I don't want them to join the RSS, but at least not to look at the RSS.
Yes, I think, in terms of Christianity, I think Savarkar, I mean, this is a huge statement that I'm about to make here, but I think Savarkarji and Golwalkarji erred a little bit when, in terms of their assessment of the Punya Bhumi concept for Christians. I don't think the Indian Christians find themselves as closely associated with Jerusalem or with Rome as they do with, the various places in India.
Absolutely no.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Exactly.
I don't have, my motherland is not Italy.
Yes.
My motherland is not Rome.
Yes.
My motherland is not the Vatican. My motherland is this.
Yes.
And this, it is not because I am saying
That's
this.
your Janma Bhumi, your Pitra Bhumi, and your Punya Bhumi is also India. Because in Christianity, there's no such requirement of going to Jerusalem.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So there is, and it is not because not that I am saying it.
Yes.
It is every Indian Christian who tell the same
Yes.
thing, because they don't have the affiliation or the bondage towards Italy.
Exactly.
Because and the second thing is this, because of the huge division in the church itself. Only the Roman Catholic Church has its roots to Rome.
Yes.
Rest all are splinter churches. Okay, and they are churches who have originated here. Okay, so they don't have anywhere else to go but this country.
Yes. And
I mean, if this country is allowing you to freely practice your religion without any restriction, why not owe some loyalty to the country?
No, it's not that. It's not that, because we were all Hindus.
Yeah.
We Christians were Hindus.
Yes.
Our forefathers were converted.
Yes.
And and you can't take away the Indianism from the Christians.
yes, and like I said, I don't think in Christianity there's any such concept that ties you down to a certain place, and
Absolutely, yeah.
unlike you would say a bit, it's there in Islam, of course.
Islam, yes, Makkah, Medina,
Makkah, Medina
and
is
Jerusalem also.
yes,
No,
it's
see,
very high on that
If
list.
you're talking about that, if you're talking about the Jews, they always wanted to go back to Israel.
Yes, Israel is always
They
going to be their
were
land.
spread across the world, and it's an interesting book you need to read, and my viewers also to read, is the book called the Exodus.
Okay.
How all the Jews planned and came back to
Israel.
in 1948. But so wherever they lived, they always had only one aspiration, that is to go back to Israel.
Okay.
Okay, but that is not the case with Christians in India.
Of course.
This is our motherland. We will live here.
Okay. So, in terms of conversions, I wanted to ask a question. So, in Karnataka, when I came here, I noticed that the missionaries, or the church here, they seem to have Hinduized Christianity to some next level altogether. Like, I'll narrate an incident. I was on the phone with my mother. I was coming home on my bike, and I saw a jhaki, a procession being carried out with like dol nagara and everything. And I asked my mother, what festival is it today? She said, there's nothing. And as I passed, I saw it was Mother Mary, on the jhaki. So I'm really curious, what are your views on this Hinduization of Christianity in an attempt to, convert and entice more people?
I studied in a Christian school. We even had hymns in the local language, in Kannada.
Yes.
See,
Yesuvanta Devaru Elli Idane.
if you look at it also, if you look this also is from the Catholic Church.
Okay.
Okay, the Indianization of the churches.
Yes.
And as I mentioned, the Catholic Church is not interested in conversion anymore. The days are gone.
Okay.
The days are numbered. The days are gone. So they have somewhere come to understand that this is our motherland, and all of us used to do this, and we do this.
Okay.
For example, for me it was a cultural shock when I was working in my first institution, which also had a huge carpentry workshop.
Okay.
And on the day of Ayudha Puja, everything was laid down.
Okay.
Okay. And then the priest came and blessed everything.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, I had a Christian friend who used to do Ayodhya Puja.
Nice.
A Christian who used to do Ayodhya
Okay,
Puja.
so that was something which I had not, because I came from a hardcore Christian background. So that was something I couldn't tolerate it.
So this Hindu version of Christianity, you think, is kind of taking over now a little bit?
It is not taking over, they're trying to adapt.
Okay.
I would say they would
But
say.
why would you say that?
Would you say that's desirable, adapting and
It is,
When
but
is it
why are they
adapting
doing it?
to the country?
What's making them do it?
It is because somehow they feel that they can't take the Hindu out of a Christian.
Oh, okay. Like that.
Okay,
So
they can't take
maybe
it.
some of their relatives are still Hindus, maybe some, they see it.
See, Hinduism is as
It's not even a religion,
a
it's
religion.
more culture.
Yes, it is a culture, and every practice has a reason behind it. Okay, every practice, India and Hinduism being the oldest civilization, which nobody has been able to break,
Of course.
has a huge backing, because there's a reasoning behind all these things,
Of
and
course.
you cannot take these practices out of the.
Okay. What are your views on Shuddhikaran and Ghar Wapasi? These types of activities.
first of all, what do they call you at the Shakha? Tell us.
Okay, that's interesting, because my name is Jerome, and when I've been introduced a couple of times to Jairam, okay, so I do correct. It's not that I don't respect Ram. Okay, I correct myself Jerome, because I want to show my identity.
Of course.
I said my name is Jerome, and I
Name
spell
has been
my,
Indianized.
yes, and sometimes I live with it. I don't have a thing, but
It's more out of, I think it's more out of their love for you.
No,
it's a mistake.
It's a
genuine
mistake.
mistake.
Okay, so
Basically, they're not able to. Jerome is something which is not a common name, like a
okay.
Joseph
Yeah.
or an Anthony. So
Jairam.
Jerome is something. So basically, when you speak fast, you say Jerome.
Yeah,
And then they
I
say
can
Jerome.
imagine.
Then I need to tell them. It's
You know how
Jerome.
many times I get called Amit?
Amit. So yeah, Shuddhikaran and Ghar Wapasi, what are your views on these types of movements?
Converting back. See, conversion is a choice. Conversion is a choice, and if anybody wants to convert back to whatever religion they are free.
Yeah,
to
I
it.
really don't think that Shuddhikaran and Ghar Wapasi have ever been forced on anybody.
Absolutely
It's been more of a, it's been more
It's
of
actually Garvapsi.
yes.
It's actually
True
Garvapsi,
Garvapsi.
because you know what? I was lured into it. I was conned into becoming so and so person.
Yes.
I realized it, and I'm coming back.
Of course.
I'm coming back.
And would you like to talk a little bit about how, there is this illusion of sorts that the church really helps poor people out, and maybe it does as well, but the illusion is that the RSS does nothing for, poor Hindus and these types of
Which
things.
is why these people are switching to
Yes.
their team.
So, would you want to talk about, some activities, social activities, things like, your Vanvasi Kalyana and all that the RSS undertakes, where it helps out the tribal people and the poor people, and there are so many activities that they carry out. So, have you ever been able to see any of these things?
The church is very old in India compared to the RSS.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So they already have a base. Okay, they already are branded and known as service or service oriented institutions. So it's already been in the mind, and it is taken up. It has gone to many levels, right? So if you look at, they would okay, if you talk about missionary if you talk about charity activities, what comes into your mind? Does Akshay Patra come into your mind, or missionaries of charity comes to your mind?
Missionary.
Okay, so what happens is this: there is a huge foundation that is already there. So the impression is that the RSS has not done anything, and the RSS also doesn't do any huge branding about what they do.
Okay.
See, most of the activities what the RSS does is unsaid.
Absolutely.
They don't say.
Absolutely.
They don't say, because you know what? That is service. Service is something
That is
where
service,
you
yes.
don't expect anything. Okay.
Yes.
But then if you look at the church, it tells I have got huge institutions and I do service. And sorry, I again re-emphasize when I said service, which many institutions say, the Christian institution says that they are into service. Let me define the word service. Service is something which you do something not expecting anything.
Selfless.
Selfless. Okay, that is what it is.
In my community, we have a saying: "दाएं हाथ से दो तो बाएं हाथ को खबर ना हो." Meaning, you should keep it so secret. If you give with your right hand, even the left hand should not know about it.
But then this whole service has taken another route, and you know what? Today's institutions which call about doing service in education, doing service in the hospitals, do they really do service? Do they give it free?
Of course not.
No.
That's not true service.
So,
okay, and
But I believe what they mean by service is maybe they are giving it at a subsidized cost. Is that what they mean by service?
then it's not service.
it's not really service. You know, if you are taking your point into consideration, then it's not true service.
And if you're doing it at subsidized also, don't you have SOPs for being getting
No,
those
I mean
subsidized?
services like schools and hospitals, which do not try to convert. I mean, we've been in Christian hospitals, me, my family, and everything. But don't you feel that is a service? If
it is
through
free-
donations, through rich benefactors, even if they reduce the cost of the treatment,
I would call Satya Sai Hospital as a service.
Yes,
Because they
it's
don't
free.
charge any money.
Because it's free. Yes, that's how it is. So I have a question. We are kind of moving towards the last few questions now. This question is from our friend Madhur Singh. What is your opinion of Hindu Rashtra? And to add to that, I would also like to ask you what is the Hindu Rashtra and the secular state.
Hindu Rashtra, yes, as I said, Hinduism as a religion also is a religion which accepts everything.
Yes.
Okay, it talks about the whole universe to be in peace and happiness.
Absolutely.
Right? It talks about
Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Vasudhaiva Kutumbam.
Kutumbakam.
Right. So that is what it talks about. So yes, when I said Hindutva is preserving everything which is Hindu. When I said it could be a temples also.
Yes.
Okay. Do we know the secret behind those temples? Prior to the British coming, prior to the Europeans coming, we had a temple culture.
Yes.
Where it is not just worship. You come to chat, you come to do a lot of things. That is where everything comes. The panchayat used to
Social
happen
bonding.
there.
Absolutely.
And that is what is destroyed. Okay. And I would want those ethos practices to come back. India is the only country which has offered the world something called the joint family.
Absolutely.
Joint family comes from India.
Yes.
Okay. And till today it has survived to a large extent. Right. And that is what we would want to preserve.
So you think a Hindu Rashtra would be an inherently secular state?
Yes. So the word secular, I'm sure you all know.
Absolutely.
Secular was not part of the constitution.
It never
was added into the constitution in the year 1976.
Yes.
Okay. And actually speaking, secular. Even the RSS is secular actually, no? It does not have a religion.
Yeah.
RSS is secular because it does not have a religion. And India is a secular country because it is not supposed to have a religion.
Yes.
It is not supposed to back a religion.
Hindu Rashtra, the term Hindu Rashtra, the way it is marketed, it has a very negative connotation. The implication being that only Hindus will rule, all other religions would be suppressed. That is not true, is it?
That
Because
is not
Hinduism
true.
is inclusive.
Absolutely.
I have no problem with Hindu Rashtra as long as Muslims and Christians are also allowed to
See,
practice the
in
religion.
I think Hindu Rashtra's point is the Hindu geographical identity more than it is the Hindu religious identity. And even if it is the Hindu religious identity, like Jerome said, Hinduism does not, if you want to call it a religion, no branch of Hinduism discriminates against any other religion in any other way. Hinduism, the philosophy of Hinduism, which a lot of Hindu philosophies have at the center of it, is that there's one God and there are many paths to get to the same
Absolutely,
God.
many paths. And see, I was talking to one of my friends. He said, Jerome, we have so many X numbers of gods, and we don't have a problem adding one more god.
Exactly.
This is what I was told. So they don't have a problem. The problem is that this one shirt fitment, which the monotheism has brought into this country. One shirt fitment, which means that this is my God, I want you to follow it. That is where the whole thing has started,
Yes, I believe, I don't remember who said this. There was some Hindu leader who was talking about this, कि मेरे तो 33 करोड़ देवी देवता हैं, मैं तो आपके 2 और जोड़ लूंगा, मेरे को कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, पर आप मेरे एक को भी जोड़ पाओगे क्या?
Absolutely.
So our friend and popular YouTube show host Mr. Sham Sharma had a question for you, and his question was, and he has been making some videos about missionaries and conversions and Christianity in India. What makes missionaries encourage hatred against non-Christian cultures?
Because their business will not survive. Their bread, butter and jam will be lost.
So they have to encourage that type of tension between cultures just to ensure their own survival.
Yes, absolutely. They need to expand their business and they need to get in more members to be part of the church so that they get contributions and they get funding, they get sponsorship, and then they get to do the power play also.
Of course.
Okay. Just to add, Jesus, when he during the last days, he told his disciples to go and preach the good news. Don't take anything when you go and preach my word. Talk the gospel, the gospel of love. He said, don't take anything, and you go empty-handed. Today, you know what the missionaries have.
Absolutely.
You have, and people live. The people who do the missionary work live in palaces.
Absolutely. I know that.
Live in palaces.
I know that
right?
about them.
And if you look at the Indian missionaries itself, some of the big names, I don't want to quote them because they are powerful. They declared values of them. They declared assets itself goes to hundreds of crores.
So imagine the undeclared ones. So all right, Jerome, this has been the podcast.
Thank you.
Do you have any parting words that you want to say to the viewers about your future, what you want to do, Christians in the RSS, anything you want to cover in basically your parting message?
There is we Christians are close to approximately 4 to 5%. 5 is not the number. I guess it should be 4. And we are here to stay because this is our motherland. India is a country, and we were all Hindus. And we will live here and we will die here. And RSS is just an organization. It is not here to threaten you. It is not here to kill you. It is here to take care of this country. You can become a member of the RSS if you wish to, but I would request each one of you to remove your veil and look at the RSS with what you're supposed to say. And please don't send, don't encourage, don't forward fake messages about the RSS or the BJP. Thank you so much.
And do you have any social media presence handles? Would you like to talk about that? Can people follow you on Twitter or something?
I intentionally kept out of Twitter.
Good decision. You
have our support.
And I am on Facebook. Please follow me. I need your encouragement, and do talk to your Christian friends. Look at your Christian friends from a different angle, and if you can ask them to be part of the RSS, there's nothing like it. You can seed it. Thank you so much.
All right, so thank you so much, Jerome, for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure talking to you. We learned a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now, in the spirit of true secularism, let's all just say goodbye in our traditional way, starting as Amar, Akbar and Anthony.
Namaste.
Assalamu alaikum.
I will still say namaste.
All right, guys, so that was the episode. Thank you so much for watching and supporting. Please continue to do so, and we'll be back very soon with new episodes.
See you soon in a future episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.